Hey everybody, decided to do a little video. I've never done a video. I don't think I've ever done a video like this to put on Facebook or any other kind of social media. I don't really do that. Um, but just felt, I guess, kind of led to do it tonight. I had to wait till all my kids went to bed, and it's kind of a circus in this house until that happens, and sometimes that doesn't happen till really late. So it's late, and just been thinking about stuff all day and all week, and felt like I don't know. I normally get to see people and talk to them, but because of the virus that's been going around, don't get to see people and talk to people much, and so I miss that ability to talk and discuss things with other people. I try to stay away from political issues on Facebook now. I haven't always been that way, as a lot of people probably know, but I do try to stay away from that these days. I found that getting on too political arguments can often lead to division between people you care about. You know, they may not think about you the same way, or keep your may not think you're as good in their eyes as they maybe once did. So I try to stay away from that stuff now, and just a lot of reasons why I don't do that anymore. But I don't really want to talk about a political thing. What's going on now is really more of a social thing. It is a political thing, but it's also a social thing. And uh, so just been doing a lot of self-reflection. I think a lot of people have been reflecting, and I guess there's a few things I want to do. I want to talk about a couple things, and then tell a story, and then this is a time. I'm a history teacher, and I teach American government, political science. So I talk about government and civil rights and civil liberties, and that's what my job is, to teach children, teenagers in high school, about that sort of stuff. And I am not by any means the best or even good at that. But normally this would be something where me and my students would talk about what's going on. I like to talk about current events and issues, and I miss that since we haven't been in school. I miss the interaction with my students. I know that we would be having a lot of conversations in my classroom. Well, not now because we're out, but if we were in school, I would be having a lot of conversations with my students about what's going on right now and in the past few weeks and days. And so I guess because I missed that, I just feel like I want to talk about it. And my wife and I have been talking about it a lot, and we usually see things the same way on stuff like this. And what I don't want to appear to do is to absolve myself of any responsibility or guilt by getting on here, making a video, and saying I support civil rights and I support African Americans and black folks for their freedoms that they're not getting, and I support their protests and stuff. So I don't want to seem like that, and I also want to be very careful to not seem like anything I say. As a teacher, I have to be very careful what I talk about in the classroom. Now, my class it's political science, so it's a lot to do with politics, and I have to be very careful to not share too much of my own personal bias or my own personal opinion, because that's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to get my students to think on their own and reflect themselves, and make their own decisions and their own opinions. And so I don't want to come off like I'm anti-police or anything. At the same time, I know police officers some are very good friends of mine that I've grown up with, and I absolutely love them. And I have conversations with my students a lot about civil rights and civil liberties. By the way, it's the longest unit that I teach is the civil rights movement. I make sure it's the longest unit. I really pound it into my students' heads. And so I believe a lot of police officers are very good people that do a very good job, and they have a very tough job, and it's dangerous, and they do a lot of stuff that they deal with a lot of stuff that we don't want to deal with and can't deal with. And when, typically when we're afraid, we call them and they come. And I don't want to say but. I don't want to say but because that's true for, I think, a lot of police officers and most police officers. There are a lot of issues that exist across the country, and obviously what we're dealing with now and what this latest controversy situation with George Floyd, and so it's made me think a lot and reflect a lot in the last few days, and it's all over the news. It's in everything you see, and can't help but think about it. It's all my wife and I talk about all day long. Is what's going on, what have you seen, what have you heard, what's new, what's happening. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing right now, and that's good that people are watching it. But I'm also seeing a lot of backlash, a backlash toward police. Obviously, this was a police involved, police at fault, in my opinion. And so what you have right now is a lot of people from a lot of different angles on this, talking about it, arguing about it, fighting about it. And then there's different arguments at different levels, and it gets really weird because there's some people that are like, George Floyd was murdered. But then you take it a few more steps farther, and then they're like, all of a sudden they're not on the protest movement. They're not for protests. Anyway, so I have a pretty busy life, 4 kids, and we, like I said before, it's a whirlwind in our house, and so I'm trying to think about, what could I do? I don't know what to do. I know that I feel like this is a moment in history that's gonna be a really pivotal moment. I was a small kid when the Rodney King incident happened, and I remember that was a moment that's etched in history. And there have been other moments that I thought would be the pivotal moment. I think the first one that comes to mind in recent years was Trayvon Martin. Now, that wasn't police involved, but it was definitely a controversial issue where people were on 2 different sides of the fence in what seems to be murder. Some people didn't see it that way, but I thought that would really lead to a lot of social change. And then you have Eric Garner, that was killed by police for, I think, selling cigarettes and not necessarily doing exactly what the police said, so they apprehended him, and he died from that. And then you have another one I was thinking of earlier was Tamir Rice. I think it was like 12 or 13, shot and killed in a park, I think, for just having like a play gun by police. And then Walter Scott, who was running from police and shot in the back several times and killed. I thought that would be a pivotal moment, but it wasn't. And then Philando Castile. I thought that was one, honestly, that would bring more people together, because that's a Second Amendment issue, because Philando Castile was legally carrying a gun and told the officer that he had the gun, and then I don't know if it's out of fear or what happened, but the officer ended up shooting him, killing him. because he thought he had a gun, I guess was going to use it. You'd think that would be one that the more Second Amendment people would come to defend that one, and that would be a moment where we said the government cannot kill citizens for carrying a gun. It's not right. But it wasn't. So, anyway, I feel like this is the moment. This is one of those moments that's really going to be different from all the other numerous moments in the past. And my eyes have not always been open to social issues. I like to consider myself pretty open to social issues and accepting and understanding. It's my favorite part of history, is social history, how people treat each other. But my wife is actually the one who's pushed me to be more aware, to be more open, and to think more deeply about social issues. A lot of people think I'm probably the more outspoken. I am the more outspoken one, but most people think that probably I'm the one who is more politically astute and socially aware. But it's really my wife is the one, and she's really changed my mind in a lot of ways about certain things. Never about racism. I've never grown up okay with that. My parents they've always told me, to love everybody should be treated the same. And there's never been a moment in my life where I've been around racist talk or racist things and been comfortable. I've always been uncomfortable, and I've always known it was wrong, even when I was a little kid. And so that's never been really an issue for me. But history's shown us that racism in America has always been there, pretty much always, and it's so deeply ingrained. I think a lot of people like me, who like to think of themselves as very socially aware. I've taken a lot of classes on social history and social issues, and I read a lot about this stuff, and I study a lot about it, and I love to teach about it. But I think even myself, I can find times where I've been quiet when I shouldn't, where I've been, in some cases, I hate to say it, maybe even a little racist when I didn't realize I could be. And I like to think that I'm like in that 99th percentile of non-racist people, but there are moments where it has caught me, where I've been caught in a situation where I start to question myself some a little. So I want to tell you this story, and I think it's symbolic of how deep racism is embedded into society, into the way just we think without really knowing we think that way. So here's a story. I know this is long, but I'll try to make this quick. So one time me and my wife were, I don't remember if it was a wedding or like a rehearsal or something like that. It was at a church, and I remember that I was dressed nice and she was dressed nice. I had like a suit, a tie, and she had on a nice dress and heels. And we were at this venue. It was during the middle of the day, so I think it was like a day before a wedding or like a rehearsal dinner or something. I'm not sure. And after the event, we looked behind where this venue was. It was in Chattanooga. And we noticed there were some really nice newer houses behind the venue. And so we decided to just walk down the street. We like to look at houses and always looking at stuff like that. So we'd never been in this neighborhood, so we start walking down the street. And this is clearly an area that was going through gentrification. Gentrification is, it's basically where poor neighborhoods are bought up, typically where minorities live, and those properties are bought up. They are either done away with or remodeled, or new buildings go up that are nicer and newer and cost a lot more. Rent goes up, cost of living goes up in that neighborhood, and then poor folks and a lot of minorities get pushed out of those areas as a result. And so this is clearly a spot where gentrification was happening. So there were these nice new houses, and we were walking down on the sidewalk. My wife and I think we were holding hands, walking down the road, down the street, and looking at all these beautiful houses and the yards and admiring them and saying, one day we might want to live downtown and in a place like this. It'd be nice. And then it got to a point where we're walking, and we hit like the edge of where the gentrification had stopped, or had not gotten to yet. And suddenly it was like a different neighborhood. And as we were hitting this spot, we started to realize, okay, well, that's the end of the nice newer houses. And it's kind of like this weird moment because two things were happening. A, the nice houses we were looking at were no more, so there was no reason for us to continue walking down the street. So we turn around and go back to our car. B, and this is the part where it gets, I guess, bad. We also noticed as we're walking down the road, sidewalk, now this is not a busy street at all, that there was a basketball goal in the road and some young, like men, I say men, boys, I couldn't tell how old they were. They're probably teenagers or in their maybe 20s, like they were a mix of kids. There's about 6 or 7 of them, maybe like high school, middle school, and then maybe a couple older kids. We were far away from them as we were approaching, and so it's hard to really tell how old they were. And they were on this, like playing on the sidewalk that we were walking on. So now we hit this moment. Here's me and my wife, who are very socially accepting people. We tend to wear our acceptance, I guess, on our chest as a badge of like, we love everybody, we accept everybody, and I guess sometimes we feel too good about that, or I can't speak for her, for myself. And then I coach a lot of young, teenage kids in basketball. I love basketball, and so we're walking down the street, and there's these young people playing basketball. And this is a moment where we were going to turn around, and then I could tell it was just one of those situations like, well, if I turn around, it's going to look like we're trying to avoid these folks playing basketball, these kids. But at the same time, we needed to turn around and go back to our car. But I remember there being a moment between my wife and I where we were like, do we just turn around now? It's going to be weird. I don't want to be weird as we're approaching these people. And as we got closer, we decided to cross the street and go back. Now, I would be lying if I said to you that there wasn't a part of me that was like, we don't belong here. We didn't fit, especially at that moment in time. We were so nicely dressed and we were walking down the road, and it was awkward. We were, I think, worried that it would be awkward. We were worried about how we would be perceived. We clearly stuck out. Not that obviously I'm not nicely dressed now, but at that moment, we stuck out big time. So, we crossed the road, and immediately, my mind's racing. 100 things were going through my mind. I could see these boys were looking back at us. They knew we were coming, and now they're going to see us crossing the road, clearly avoiding them. And so, I was like, this is just uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. But we're walking across the road. We get to the other side of the street. We didn't get to them yet. We crossed before we reached these kids. We get to the other side, and we're walking back as now to the kids. And my wife, in her high heels, trips in the hole in the sidewalk or something, falls all the way down to her knees, pretty bad fall. So I'm like trying to help her up or whatever, and I hear someone say, "Hey, y'all okay?" or something like that. "You guys all right? Y'all need help?" I look back, and it was the kids playing basketball. And so uh, what I immediately felt was a strong sense of shame. Shame. I felt ashamed of avoiding these kids. That was a moment that I could have kept walking. As we approached them, maybe I could have said, "Hey, can I shoot a little bit with you guys? Let me get a shot, you know? Let me see where are you guys from? Where do you go to school? Um, you play for a team. What do you know?" I could have used that moment as perhaps at a moment to bridge a gap. I don't know. But instead, I guess tucked my tail and avoided it, and to feel safer. And a strong sense of shame came over me. I knew immediately. It appeared after the fact that maybe going down there and playing basketball with them would have been a good idea, because they were clearly very friendly, and they were going to help us because my wife had fallen down, and so I felt very shameful. And at that moment, I was like, "God, you were being racist. You were being racist." I'm telling myself that. Now here I am. I'm Coach Baker. Socially, I tell my kids in my classroom on day one, you're not allowed any hate speaking here. You can't discriminate in here. Everyone is treated equally in my classroom. We don't treat people bad in here. If you talk like that, you're going to be out. You're out. I don't accept that sort of thing. And here I am, this person who thinks I am, good in that sense, and I let myself down big time. I didn't stand up when I should have. And there have been other moments in my life like that when I'd heard other people say a joke or something that was inappropriate, and I just laughed it off. I said, "Oh, not really one I would tell, but whatever," and just moved on about my day. And so it's very true that people who consider themselves not racist find themselves in situations where they at least avoid people to feel safe, to feel secure, and then it's just, I can't believe I did that. And it's hard for me to believe it now. I never really tell this story to very many people at all, I don't think. But so anyway, in the events that have been happening here recently, it seems like there's lots of different camps. Okay, a lot of people are on board with George Floyd was murdered, but then it changes from there. Then you have people protesting. Well, a lot of people aren't necessarily supporting of the protesting part, and then there's people who are, I guess, more violent and looting and doing things like that. And then a lot of people are not on board with that, of all different backgrounds, against that sort of thing. And it's not a legal thing, so I can understand that. And so I've evolved a lot in the last few days, even still. I didn't know that I could evolve much more, but I guess I can. And so I was watching this stuff unfold, and immediately when I saw the George Floyd video, I immediately thought that was absolute murder. That was murder, no question about it. And then the protests begin, and I thought, yes, protest. This is a country founded on protest and dissent. Nothing wrong with that. But then it started getting kind of violent, windows being broken, places being burned. And then so I questioned myself for a long time, like, that's not okay. That's not okay. And I'm just watching, I'm observing all these videos and stuff, and I'm seeing what people are saying on Facebook and social media, and I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to see it this way, and I'm listening to it this way, and I'm seeing what these people say, and I'm seeing what these people say, and I'm trying to figure out where I am on what's happening. And I couldn't really get my mind around the looting and the destructive stuff. I was like, that's just not right to destroy somebody's business or to take something. And I hope my wife doesn't feel bad about this, but she said to me, like, well, that's what's happened to them for a long time. A lot of folks like that have experienced that, or their families have, or their ancestors have. There was no rule for them. No one stopped them from being stolen from, or have their church burned down, or their house burned down. And she's like, it's not right, but that's what's happened to many of them and some of them. And so it's just the way it is. And so I thought about that for a while, and I was like, she's right. I think what's happening right now is not a matter of, it's not just about things being exactly right. I think what's happening now is a reckoning. It is an absolute reckoning. It's what society has not fixed, has come to a reckoning. And as a result, what we're seeing is a lot of people are feeling it. A lot of people are going to experience it that maybe shouldn't, don't deserve it. But I don't believe there's rules for a reckoning like this. And so it's violent in some places. It's dangerous in some places. And then there's some people that are very peaceful. And I don't know which way is right or wrong. And I can't speak from experience. I have not. I've lived more of a life of privilege, I guess you could say. And so I can't relate, but I do believe I understand better now. And so I think, it's a lot of people wonder, like me, like maybe what do you do now? Like, what can someone like me do? I see people marching. If this were 15 years ago, I'd probably be right there too. I'm fairly certain I would be. But I have a lot of kids, and it's not like something that's feasible for me to just take off and go marching. Maybe I should anyway. I don't know. But I feel like kind of helpless. Like maybe I could do something to help, but I'm not doing anything to help. Instead, I'm just watching and observing. And so I'm asking myself, what can I do? And I don't know what to tell anybody else what to do. I see a lot of people I know marching and protesting, and I support that. And I would like to do some of that maybe myself, but I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do what I can do until I can do more. That's what I've decided for myself. I'm going to do what I can do until I can do more, and I am going to do more than I've done in the past. And I've decided that from here on out, I've always been I guess, socially liberal in many instances, not necessarily liberal about everything, but I am on most social issues. I'm going to make sure that I'm not just laughing off and just brushing off, I should say, irresponsible talk, whether it be racist or homophobic or sexist or any of that stuff. That's not going to be okay around me anymore. I've decided that I'm not going to let people feel comfortable around me. I've never felt comfortable around that sort of stuff, and I'm not going to let people feel comfortable around me because they feel comfortable being that way. So it's not to push anybody away. I don't want to do that. But I'm not going to just allow that to go on in my presence. And then I'm going to continue to teach what I know, and to teach with emotion, and to try and instill in my students a better understanding of other people, and to be more accepting and understanding of the plight of others. And I think that's what I can do. And I applaud others for doing more. know that I could do more. I'd like to do more. But that's just where I am right now, and so that's what I'm going to keep doing until I can do more, and I will make that dedication. I'm not going to be silent anymore. I'm not going to just let other people be comfortable in their racism or sexism or whatever around me. I know this is I'm not like fully aware of all the stuff that goes on social media. My wife has told me this is a moment to be to go dark on Facebook and social media, so that the right messages are being put out there, and not in this social media feeds are not being filled with nonsense, so that the message is really being heard. And so with that, I'm going to end this, and then I'm going to stay on social media, but I'm not going to post or talk or do anything else, so that the right messages can be seen and heard. And I don't know if what I've just gone through helps. I don't know if people can relate, but I want to do my part to do better and be better, and make sure that I'm doing my part to stamp out the bad parts of society. And I hope that our justice system and our legal system will respond in the right way. And with that, it's been like it's 30 minutes long. God almighty, can't believe I did that. But sorry to be so long. All right.